Hello folks, it's David Connolly, the Web Developer Extraordinaire, and today I'm going to be making the case that you should stop using rems and ems and go back to using the pixel. You do realise this is a highly controversial viewpoint. You have a look around YouTube and there's tons of videos where people will say, stop using pixels, PX, for things like CSS media queries. And nobody is pushing back. Nobody is saying a word in defense of the pixel. Well, that changes today because, hallelujah, the Web Developer Extraordinaire has returned. And I am here to defend the pixel. The pixel. Back in 1982, there was a guy lived about 10 miles down the road who did not know what a pixel was. But those days have long gone. Everybody knows what a pixel means. It's such a clear, beautiful concept, something that we've been using for a very, very long time. And oh, what a sad day if we stopped using the pixel. Now, I'm going to go straight for the jugular here by putting a certain type of YouTube channel on the chopping block. But do realise that I'm not attacking anybody as a person. I'm not attacking anyone's integrity, and I'm definitely not attacking anybody's skill set. This must be clear. However, I am going to push back on a certain type of YouTube channel that I'm seeing a lot of that really bugs me. And on the chopping block today is going to be the man with the best hair in all of web development. It's Web Dev Simplified. Now,
today we're going to build your very first REST API.
Channel. Let me be clear. It's an excellent channel. He presents brilliantly. He knows a whole bunch that I don't know. This is an excellent example of a great video. He shows you a new thing that's coming with CSS. I never knew about this, and it's fantastic. So let me be very clear, folks. This is a good channel. I'm not criticizing him as a person. I do hope that's clear. But there's a slight fly in the ointment. You see, there's certain channels of the web development genre that keep regurgitating the same formula over and over and over again in a very shameless and unsophisticated attempt to get clicks. And I'm afraid I'm going to have to call it out. In the same way that Steph Mischuk keeps on regurgitating is X too old to be a developer videos. He'll change the number X. I think last time it was up to 70. And he'll change the title. But it's essentially the same video over and over and over again. A very, might I say, intellectually bankrupt way to make videos. Well, we kind of get a similar thing with other channels. And it's really not necessary because it takes away from the otherwise excellent content that we get from channels like Web Dev Simplified. And what is the thing? I'll show you. I'll show you. It's this. It's where they suddenly, amongst all of the good, we get things like stop using pixels for media queries. And there's a few of the others I've seen. There's not that many actually. But I did see a few others, and the format, let's not get too brutal here, but the format, and you'll see them, is, hey everybody, if you do this, you're all doing it wrong. You better do it my way. Or if you don't, it's bad practice. Now, when you say something like that, I do hope that you realise you are now fair game for a guy like me. I hope that you realise that when you say to a bunch of developers, if you do an Uncle Bob, which, his whole career was founded on the idea of going to seminars, telling people they're all doing it wrong unless they do it his way. Yeah. It's kind of a dangerous path to go down, and I think it's quite low vibrational, and it's actually very uncalled for because in the case of Web Dev Simplified, he has such an excellent channel. So let me go into this with a pretty fine microscope and I'll give you my defense of the pixel. This is the retort that nobody's giving, but I dare say I could respond like this to a whole lot of these kinds of videos, right? So the video in question is this: stop using pixels. Now, the title of that is bound to get attention, you know. Stop using pixels for media queries, rather. It demands your attention. And we've got it. So I'm going to walk you through the video, and I hope you'll forgive me, but I am going to take my time with this, and I'm going to explain or mansplain why I think that this is not good advice. So the video starts off, and I'll leave a link in the description. And he's not the only one saying this, by the way. He's representative of the sort of communal voice of web development on YouTube. So he starts off with an introduction and says, if you are using pixels for media queries, then it's a bad practice. Bad practice is in quotations here. He literally uses the phrase. He says it's bad practice, right? So that's the introduction. Then he very brilliantly and gracefully explains the nature of the problem. And here it is on the screen. The problem is, if you set something with pixels and then something with rem and m, well, a person can go into their browser settings, change the font size, and what happens is the fonts with rems and m's change, but the font size that's defined with pixels stays the same size. So that's the problem, and he does a fantastic job of explaining the problem. The next part of the video is where he's going to show us what can go wrong. Now, this is the part of the video where, look, if you're standing in front of a group of people and saying you're all doing it wrong, this is the part of the video where we're waiting to see the San Francisco Bridge falling into the water, you know? We want to see what's at stake. What happens if we do this terrible thing of using pixels for media queries? So let's see the examples he's got from all of the stuff that he could choose. And what does he give us? By the way, you're not meant to see that. That was an accident. I might as well tell you. This is a chart of Brad Traverse's average view count per month over the last 3 years. I just ran it through some AI. I was curious to see if people were still enjoying long-form web development tutorials. It would appear not, but let's leave that for another day. Okay, so this is the train wreck, and it's all to do with this button here. I want you to look at this button, because what he does, and I'll save you a little bit of time, is he talks about the button. Now we're going to resize the button, right? I'm clicking and it's a bit bigger and it's a bit bigger. We went smaller. Are you watching the blue button? Okay. And the blue button's defined by pixels here, and it's defined by rems up here, and that's your train wreck. There you go. And thank you very much indeed. Now, did you see the problem? Probably not. So let me enlighten you. The problem is that when you use pixels to define something like padding, as the button gets bigger or smaller, the padding will not change in perfect proportional alignment with the button at its original size. That's pretty much the thing, right? And if you look back, you'd say, oh, apologies for that. Well, as we look back, you'd say, yeah, that's right enough. I can see why that would be an issue. Okay, so that's the train wreck. That's what we're avoiding. Let's just keep going, and then I'll give you my retort, as it were, later on, right? So the next thing he does is he shows us this web page here, and I have to say this looks quite nice. It looks like an estate agent site or something of that nature. And he starts off, it's using pixels here, media queries defined by pixels, and he changes it to rems. Look at these numbers, 15.625 rem. And eventually we sort of end up back to square one here at the end. Now, I have not really began my retort, but I'm already starting to feel as if this is a solution looking for a problem. And this is where it really starts to fall apart by my estimation. He has a whole section, all of this section here, on getting used to getting rem values. Okay, so he says, some of you might notice this number's a bit odd, 28.125, but the reason why is because we have to do a calculation, because the default value for font sizes is 16 pixels, which means that it's going to be this size of rem. Now, he admits that this is a little bit awkward. I mean, look at this, 1.375 rem. This is very awkward. He at least admits that, and then proposes a solution. And the solution he proposes is, we go to the opening HTML tag, change the font size to 62.5. Then we go to the body, change the font size to 1.6 rem. And forgive me if this is turning into a little arithmetic lesson, but if you do that, then eventually 1 rem equals 10 pixels, which means that hopefully we don't have to work with these awkward values that we have everywhere. But the trouble is, that idea is short-lived, because as he goes on and admits himself, if you do that, you're going to break third-party CSS code if you import it. So if you happen to like using things like Bootstrap and all of that, then you might have some challenges. Now, I think that's a pretty accurate summation of the video, and if he would like to get in touch, he can have me on his channel or come here or do whatever he wants, and he can be assured of a warm welcome. I do hope that you can appreciate the type of thing that I'm alluding to here. So when I made this website, I think this was CSS Grid, I'm not entirely sure, but when I'm defining things like this site and I'm using media queries, I'm not caring about the font size when I do, for example, like, well, let's just do an example here. If I have something like this, do you see how we switched? We've got this different footer here, and we've got this nav menu, right? Okay, so when I wrote that, I did not care about the font size. I was far more interested in things like the viewport width. And so I would have used pixels. And I'm in with a good crowd. I had a look at Amazon, and do this yourself. Here's Amazon.com, just find your popular site, inspect, and there you go, 1000 pixels, 22 pixels. Everybody's using pixels, I thought they're going to think this is a fix. I went to CNBC, another site that I was on, and there it is again, minimum width 760 pixels. All of the heavyweights are using pixels without any challenges at all. I thought to myself, people are going to think I'm just cherry picking examples that favor me. So I looked at the lottery and I thought, okay, what's the first number from last week? So they know I'm being honest. So the first number is 4. And I thought, okay, what's the fourth most popular website in the world? It turns out it's Instagram. So I looked at Instagram again. You open up your inspector and there are all of the pixels. They're everywhere. It seems to me that the underlying premise with the video from Web Dev Simplified, and of course many other developers have posted the same type of video, stop using pixels. The premise is that they are trying to accommodate some hypothetical human being who goes into their settings and does this. I don't think that that human being exists. And if you know anyone who does do that, I think that you would do well to just show that person how to very easily change the font size by zooming in and out like that. There's nothing weird about that. It's very, very normal. And respectfully, with the deepest of respect, I don't see this as a genuine solution. I see this as a
vertical scale responsively across
an attempt at a solution that just creates even more problems. For those of you who like logic, here's a little screenshot that shows you the situation from a logical perspective. So I don't think that any of this, you can pause the screen and figure that out for yourself. But none of it really impresses me. And this is why I've always said there's a huge disconnect between the commercial web development space and the YouTube web development space. That being said, Web Dev Simplified is an excellent channel. I actually would very much like to buy his course, and I hope that I can do that at some point. There's no question that he has some fantastic content. So I'm not criticizing him as a channel or anything. I think his stuff's great. But I would encourage you, the listener, to always think for yourself. Always say to yourself, is all of the baggage that this alleged solution is coming with, is it actually worth it? Is this a legitimate solution? And more to the point, who benefits from this? Who benefits from saying what all of you people are doing is wrong and we're going to now do it this way? Ask yourself these types of questions and you will truly be an independent thinker and not just a valuable developer, but I think a much more interesting and valuable human being. I'll talk to you soon.